Here we are. We are live on multiple platforms, and StreamYard is putting it everywhere. Evolve Conversations number 28 with the incredible friend and community leader from DoveTail, Alexis Dean. Welcome.
Hi, Steve. So excited to be here.
Yeah, and how timely could this conversation be in regards to sort of how everything is going up in North America right now with not only the pandemic, but the incredible stand that has been taken for Black people in North America. How's it all going? How's it feeling up there? Because yes, we are on the other side of the world, and to be honest, I can't really get to grips with what's going on there because we embrace, I suppose, both all cultures down this part of the world, I think. So yeah, share a bit what's going on. How are you feeling? What's going on up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different. As you know, I lived in New Zealand, and I know the Maori and Kiwi relationship is so different than what it is in North America. First with our Indigenous peoples, and then also with Black Canadians, Black Americans, and people of color in general. I am not an expert in this area, but as someone who leads community, I can tell you kind of what my experience has been and also what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is that there is a tipping point that's been reached, that for hundreds of years, Black people and people of color have been treated unjustly, and people are standing together and rising up and making a change. And at DoveTail, I shared this morning a whole live stream just about how we can reflect. I think it has to start with us reflecting on our own position in this and our own actions and the type of organizations that we're running and the type of people we're being. And I was sharing about some questions about whether or not we've been a racist organization. And in many ways, I think that's sort of where a lot of us white people, I'm not saying for all white people, but a lot of white people are now looking inward and saying, I have been part of this problem, and now what can I do to change my own behavior to make a better impact?
Yeah, powerful. And I know we're part of a pretty awesome community out on Facebook with a lot of tribe leaders, community leaders, conference organizers, and you made an amazing sort of stand out there to go, hey, like we need to take responsibility and take a look inwards and going, how can we take note and then kind of go, right, how do we help move the needle and raise the voices? Like getting more people on stages, getting more people in communities. And I think right now, coming together, COVID has kind of been a catalyst in getting people to come together. And we've got these amazing platforms like Zoom that we can have courageous conversations. And I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but I think a lot of it's going to be around this, is that protesting or being silent. There was something on the news this morning. How potentially as community leaders, we can move the needle? What do you think are some things that we can do internally in our communities?
Yeah, again, I'm not the best representative of this. I'm so lucky to have women in my community, Black women in my community, who have been willing to speak with me about this, not just now since this has happened, but over the past couple of years as we work to become a more diverse and inclusive community. And so they are really the best resource. And so I wanted to give a shout out. They are doing one of our community members and one of her good friends are doing a live stream at 7:00 EST. So if you're watching in North America, go check out I Am Jam Gamble on Instagram, because I think part of our role as community leaders is to amplify the voices of Black people and people of color who are speaking out right now, whose voices have been silenced for so long. So that is probably one of the biggest things that we need. We don't need more white women, unfortunately, for today, getting out here and saying, here's what everyone needs to do, because I'm learning too. And so amplifying the voices of, especially for me, Black women and women of color, and also those who have also other people who have faced prejudice in the past. So the members of the LGBTQ plus community have also been discriminated against. And so elevating those voices, I think, is the most important thing we can do right now. And that's what I was calling for in our group.
Fantastic. And so onto community, because we're all leaning into community and we want a deep sense of belonging right now. When did you start DoveTail? Obviously, DoveTail is an incredible female empowered community of entrepreneurs, thought leaders coming together, and what you've created in North America, and I'm sure it's going to spread across the globe, is something amazing, and kind of look up to you as doing an amazing job on all fronts. So congrats on that. But when did it all start? What drew you into creating a community for women?
Yeah, it was my own need. I think that's like much change in the world stems from things that we experience and our own needs. And that's like a lot of the biggest businesses and now movements really start from things that might drive us a little crazy at times to different extents. So I started DoveTail because I had another business, and I was about 4 years or so into running my other business. And I was working with a lot of big companies, the tech companies, and growing my team. And I had hired a few guys, and I was just feeling like I'm surrounded by men all the time. And I love guys, but I didn't know any female business leaders. And so I was going to events, trying to connect with like women in business and women who are successful entrepreneurs, and really wanting to make friendships with them. And I was finding it very difficult because there's so much business card swapping and, a bit of superficiality at a typical networking event. So I started hosting these weekends, and it just kind of snowballed over the past few years.
And what are some of the take homes that you've got yourself personally and the community that you didn't expect would come out of creating a community? Obviously, you've got some that you're like, I kind of knew that would have a deep sense of belonging and would build friendships. But what have been some aha moments, or just one aha moment for you? Is like, I didn't expect it to go that way. And obviously, COVID times is literally, both as community leaders have had to pivot differently on how we can enable and empower our community to continue to thrive. What's one of those aha moments been for you?
Gosh, there's so many. Aha moments are like moments that surprise me with our ladies. I think I just didn't realize how powerful it was to bring together women to build true relationship and to create a community where, for the most part, we don't have a lot of drama, where it's not about women, talking about each other or clicking or any of the stuff that has been unfortunately part of the stereotype of women's gatherings. So I think the biggest aha was at our first summit weekend, when I thought it was just going to be a one-off weekend. Like, I literally, when I started, I was like, let's do a weekend and see. And at the end of it, like, everyone got up and was clapping and people were crying. And I looked around the room and they just said, so what are we doing next? And I just remember standing there and I was in tears, and I was like, I guess this was the thing we needed. And that was probably the biggest. But I am constantly standing by our ladies. Like, when I talk to them and they say the relationships that they've formed starting at our events and then carrying on throughout the year, or our ladies who I see on like family holidays together and they came together through being part of the community or through one of our events. Like, those are always such rewarding times, because it means that we're forming business relationships, but we're also forming real life relationships. And those are kind of the best.
Gone are the days of networking. It's all about relationships moving forward, isn't it? It's just like enough of the business card movements, and I don't even own a business card anymore. And it's all about relationships and diving deep and holding that psychological safety that people can have those authentic, courageous conversations. And it was so hard to have sort of, what is it, to build a true relationship takes 8 touch points. And in the busy lives pre-COVID, sometimes it would take a year and a half to get 8 of those touch points, of a coffee, a lunch, a dinner. But what you're doing at DoveTail is literally like condensing that. So over 4 or 5 days, these women are literally spending 24 hours a day with each other, and to be able to walk away with true depth of relationship, and some of their best friends probably come out of DoveTail, I can only imagine. So
yeah, wild.
And what's been your discovery over the last 8 weeks or 12 weeks, if it kind of started around this COVID time? Optimistic versus pessimistic, like, where do you kind of fit in the whole discovery of the last 12 weeks? We've had many conversations over the last 12 weeks, which have been amazing, and I'm grateful for those. So, but yeah, what have you kind of discovered out of this time?
I mean, you and I have talked about so much as we transitioned DoveTail to from an in-person mainly community to an online community, and we launched our year-round masterminds and launched the online membership program and all that stuff. And I think for me, I'm one of those people that it might be a bit woo, but I just believe that things work out the way that they're supposed to in the end. And if it hasn't worked out, then it's not the end. And so for me, it's just been a realization of that as a community and as my little team, just really able to adapt to whatever circumstances we're thrown at us. We hadn't planned on, launching the membership this early or starting mastermind groups or anything like that, 12 weeks ago. And now here we are. So I think it's just rolling with it and recognizing that you take a deep breath because it is going to work. And just might need to give it some time.
Yeah, no, totally. And so for a mastermind, a lot of Aussies and Kiwis that are probably tuning into this is like, what is the power of a mastermind? Like, it's still quite fresh in this part of the world. It's like, oh, a mastermind, it sounds very elitist and everything. But I know personally how beneficial it's been for me to be surrounded around masterminds. But I think what DoveTail does really well, obviously, not in the inner side, but you bring like-minded and like-hearted. So it's like a heart mastermind with minds that really get to the feelings of things as well as solving epic problems in your business. But what is the definition of a mastermind, and how is it so powerful for your woman?
Yeah, so I think I say mastermind sometimes and people are just like, what? What does that mean? And we hear it kind of thrown around, and sometimes people are like, oh, it's one of those $50,000 things. And, if you're in your first few years of business, that's maybe not where you're going with it. And for DoveTail, our masterminds are really like small group forums. So I'm not sure, does EO exist in Australia or New Zealand?
EO does. It's still kind of that sort of pin-up child that is big. It's a lot of people, potentially more networking versus true. But I can't speak, I'm not part of EO. So.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking as a comparison, EO has small group forums, and that's basically what we do for our masterminds, is we have curated small group forums. So everyone starts at the same time, so we only open up for applications a few times a year, and then we do a full onboarding, and everyone begins with their group at the same time. So you're in a group of either 5 or 6 other women along with yourself, and you gather once every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks there are different people from the group that are in the spotlight. And so as a group, you contribute to supporting their business and their lives, whatever they're working through storytelling and sharing and connections and resource sharing and all sorts of things that we do in a facilitated way in the group. And then also every time we gather as a group, everyone does a check-in and everyone has the opportunity to get a bit of feedback on things they might need or to provide a bit of accountability around things. So it's just a way of building a really strong business connection and also just getting outside perspective on the things that we're so in every day, especially now that we're home and in the work so much more than we might have been before.
Something so great about getting outside perspective and broadening your horizons. And obviously we've had many conversations around and moving from competition to collaboration. I'm just like, I love how there's a few of us in this wider community that are really leading into collaboration versus competition. There's so many good C words right now. It's like conscious collaboration, but being able to reach out to someone that's outside of your 9 to 5 and getting that perspective. Wow, it's just so powerful. And I thank you for that outside perspective of whether it's coming to systems, what systems do I use, or how do you even curate this, and etc. So, and that's one of the benefits of obviously being part of DoveTail or a community. What do you find some of the questions that are coming up now, like the theme? Obviously, there's many questions getting asked right now internally in communities of how we best serve communities. But what are some how are you feeling those questions coming through right now? What are those questions that the ladies are asking, going, I need help with this, or what's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, before this week, because I don't want to miss, the fact that this past couple of weeks has been so dramatically different. And as business owners, a lot of us are still having these conversations around working through the social challenges and working through racism and all of the topics that we talked about before. But before that, when we were talking about just, business strategy and the challenges our ladies were having there, I think a lot of people are taking the time now, especially because we're still under quarantine up here. A lot of people are taking the time to reset in their business and think about ways that they can reorganize, restructure, kind of frame things maybe a little bit differently. So we're doing some workshops around establishing our CRMs, using better tech. What are some of the other things? I have a whole list here because we're planning all of our workshops. Thought leadership, so developing their thought leadership and increasing their visibility. So yeah, those kind of topics.
And from a personal front, how are people like feeling from a personal? We talk about restructuring our business sometimes, especially me over the last couple of weeks, is kind of restructuring our values in alignment, and spiritually where I sit currently, are people taking stock of that? And obviously you kind of fuse some of that learning and thought leadership into the personal side as well, not just the business.
Yeah, I mean, we always super lucky, like within the community, we have our small groups, but we also have our resident experts. So we have 8 women who are experts in different areas, and they're not all experts just in business focus. So we have a resident therapist and her team who lead workshops as well, and who lead Q&A sessions in their office hours. And so there are conversations definitely where people are focused on reevaluating what they really want in their lives and what their values are and how they're aligned to those, as you just mentioned. So yeah, those conversations definitely come up. And I think that's kind of all playing into like what's happening around us right now as well, as people are kind of taking stock of everything in their lives and in their businesses.
Well, I feel that with all this permission to change, which I think is what's come out of this COVID time, with the catalyst of permission to change, and it's okay to change. And I'll post the Goldcast, which Alexis was featured on Goldcast, and an amazing speech around saying goodbye to her dad, and sort of how moments could potentially define life-changing, but they actually don't. And it was a great little perspective or mindset change around that. Yes, there are many moments in our life that we could say were life-changing, but it's actually just being in the present moment to make that change and constantly make change and move from a caterpillar to a butterfly. It's just this like transition. But I think the permission to change on self, but also this COVID time. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, but it's okay. the virtual world of people not having to work in offices right now and coming back to community is that, yeah, Twitter's saying you don't need to come back to work. Uber's saying only 50%. The sense of community and these communities that we're creating and other friends in the industry are creating are going to be even more needed right now, because people will need, especially on an online space. So how do you feel that sort of collaboration potentially coming together? Because it's just like, it's so needed right now, because what we're not talking about is the pandemic that is going to come off the back end of COVID around mental health, not sense of belonging, company culture is really going to be changed. So yeah, that's a very big open question, but just some thoughts around how communities outside of organizations are going to play a pivotal role in stopping or slowing down the next pandemic, which is around loneliness and
mental health. Yeah, especially for entrepreneurs going through so much stress right now and so much pressure and so much fear, and not to harp on it or focus on it too much, but especially for our Black women entrepreneur friends in North America right now, there's just so much pressure and so much stress. And yes, there's all of this pressure and stress in complete isolation, right? Because you're not supposed to hug people, you're not supposed to touch people, and you aren't supposed to go visiting, and all of the ways that a lot of us would normally soothe ourselves and have, not therapy necessarily, but going around to a friend's house and having a glass of wine and having that good deep chat. You just can't necessarily get the same kind of thing through the internet. So I do think these communities are so important, and I think as soon as we possibly can, we will be doing as much as we can together in person with our ladies in different cities. But yeah, I think that this is going to change the way the world looks and the way we interact. And I think part of why I created DoveTail, for those that aren't familiar, DoveTail is, if you look at the tail of an actual dove, the bird, the feathers line up really perfectly. Yeah. So, and they line up in this perfect overlapping way. And if you look at the corner of a log cabin, that's actually a dovetail joint, where the way that logs fit together. So it's a symbol of interconnection. And for me, it's always been about creating these connections between our ladies so that they're better able to support one another and to collaborate on projects and to really lean on each other and be stronger when times are tough. So this is more important than ever that we have that.
I just love the whole DoveTail. I can't wait till DoveTail meme comes out one day. As me and Sarah talk about a lot, it's similar to like Wonder and Wander, is the two W's and the interdependent relationship and especially in personal relationships and business relationship. So often it's dependent on versus interdependent, is like each each person or individual or party in a business has got their own individual strengths and powers and lives and everything. But by coming together, they are truly stronger and move forward. So I think that's what DoveTail, again, from the outside, and Sarah's run a workshop for your ladies, this whole interdependence between community and self is the way forward, and it's just super exciting. Something we're both, I think, really passionate about as well as young people, and we've got so much wisdom that's within our communities and diversity, which is great. Is bringing the willing and the wise together. Like, what's your sort of vision around how do we have these beautiful ladies and wisdom from ladies to really help the next generation? And we ask the same question to ourselves all the time. So yeah, what's your kind of thoughts on that? And if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see happen around that willing and the wise part?
I mean, we kind of do it within the community already because we have two streams of the community. So we have our summit ladies who are, I hate to call them high performing, but they're just a bit more experienced. So most of them have much larger companies, or they've been in business for a very long time. So they've had that sort of measure of like stereotypical success. And then we have our general membership, which ranges from women who are in, their second, third year of business to those that have been in a bit longer, but are still scaling and growing, or they're scaling and growing a second or third business. So our ladies who are typically part of our summit come back to speak and mentor in our other programming, which is awesome. So we're doing a bit of that, and also looking for ways to incorporate something that you and I talked about, Steve, which is First Nations entrepreneurship program that I'm looking for and looking for partners with, because I think especially in Canada, like young people who are First Nations or Indigenous people don't necessarily have the same access to resources in First Nations communities up in the north, but they do sometimes have access to the internet, and there are so many opportunities to share all the resources and knowledge and everything that our ladies have, and to share that with the next generation, and especially with the population that could really use support. So looking towards programming around that, but I'm sure things will evolve over the next few years. I'm a former teacher, so I can't help but look at like what we are doing to turn that into curriculum or something in the school system. So we'll see.
I just came across that actually the other day to see that you're in Japan. I think it was last year, and you donated some time or went over to Japan, and had no idea that you used to be a teacher. So I'm like, how many strings to a bow can Alexis have? So and such a great asset, because the future of education has really changed as well. Obviously, having 5 kids between 2 countries and seeing how COVID kind of fast tracked how our next generation learn, which is super powerful. As you said, the First Nations, that they do have technology up there, and now there is no boundaries to really be able to support and enable and empower people to move forward. Like in the past, it's like come to an event, come to an experience, come to a workshop. That still was logistically really hard for many people, including flights or buses. But now everyone has adopted this Zoom from education teachers, which we wanted to get to there, but now it's like being fast tracked. So it's super exciting about what we can all do as community leaders and stuff, to be able to go reach out and say there's no boundaries. Like if I want to bring in Alexis for a workshop, it's just a Zoom call away. It's really going to change the whole dynamic of events, don't you think? And experiences.
Yeah, and it's, when, again, one of the challenges of bringing in diverse speakers from around the world that have different experience is the cost of it, is flying in, and the time of it too, right? Like it can just be so costly for time and money and everything else. And now that we're able to bring people from all over to speak with our ladies and teach and to connect. I mean, for example, having Sarah come and do a session one night, which was awesome. So
it's fantastic. Yeah. And what's your dream in the next, if you had that magic wand in the next like 12 to 18 months where DoveTail was? Obviously, we've been talking a lot, and who knows, watch the space. I know you're very connected to this part of the world, lived in New Zealand, and DoveTail potentially going global, which is super excited. But what's that champagne moment?
I love that question. We ask it too. I know our friend Jason has introduced that question.
I borrowed it from Jason. Definitely wasn't mine. I always credit Jason for that one. So.
What are we toasting? So, 12 months from now, I've only just sort of reset my brain around what it might look like because of everything that's been going on. But the goal is to continue to grow our community. So we'll have, within the next 12 months, we'll probably open up for applications to join a couple more times, probably 3 or 4 more times. So to grow the community there and to grow it globally, because right now we have mostly Canadians and Americans. I think there's so much that we can learn from women from all over the world. So we're going to grow globally, and that's the goal, at least globally. And then the point there is when we do our in-person events, that we'll have these women connecting from all over the world in person. So I don't know, probably not within 12 months, but within the next 2 years, I'm hoping to have at least one DoveTail event away from North America. So potentially in Europe or maybe somewhere farther south. I don't know.
Come on, you can't do Europe first. It's got to be down this part of the world.
People we have in the community from that part of the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how about you personally? How obviously you've gone through lots of change as well. It's like, and talking about that Goldcast, how do you continue to stay grounded? And like, we can go woo, I'm totally into it, but it's just like, how do you stay grounded through times of uncertainty? What are some of your tools that you keep grounded?
Well, I have a meditation cushion right there. It's literally like on the floor right next to me. And that is a huge, it's changed my life, meditating, and I'm not an expert, if one can be, but I just find it really, really powerful. Some futuristic visioning stuff I find really great. So that, I do a lot of writing. Goal is to write every day. So I find all those practices really grounding. And then also doing something physical and getting out of my head. So I'm training I just did a half marathon, just solo, and not with a group or anything. But I'm training for a full right now. And I've been doing more trail running, and just because I can't do my team sports right now. So just doing as much paddle boarding, that kind of thing. So I find like that's all really, really grounding. And at times when it seems like the world has gone a bit mad, it's really good to get out and move your body.
Yeah, powerful. And definitely meditation or stillness or mindfulness, whatever we want to call it, that's scientifically proven. It's not woo anymore. It's just like literally being able to just be present is super powerful, if you want to call it. And the other thing is, like, as we do take such a great responsibility on the people that are around us and in our community, is sometimes it's really hard for us because we take on a lot of that and have such empathy and compassion. Where do you kind of turn to because you can't, we had this question the other day in thoughts, it's like, can we obviously want to bring vulnerability into our communities, and that's really powerful to bring empathy and compassion and everything else, but how do you outlet to other people in that support network, and how do you build that when you need somewhere to vent or talk about things aren't going well, or celebrate success as well? How do you build that system?
Yeah, you and I were talking about this, and it's funny. It's why so many of us who run communities are part of other communities, because we also need a place where we can go. And it's not that I don't feel safe talking to our ladies, because I do, and I love them, and I have close relationships with a lot of them. But you can't always pull back the curtain in the middle of running your own community, right? Like you don't want to go to them and be like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing with any of this. Like, that's not going to go well, right? So it doesn't really build confidence. So, not that I feel that way if any of our ladies are watching, but there are times, when you're making big decisions or you have to have tough conversations. It's just really good to have that peer support. So I am part of another community. I'm part of Backwater. And I am super lucky. I have a great mentor, not from there, but just from previous business. And I also just have an inner circle of women who help me run DoveTail. So they are the behind the scenes. I call them the OGs, or the original godmothers of DoveTail, and they have been there since we started, and I trust them with everything, and I probably tell them too much, but they hear all the inner working stuff, because it's so important to have that small group. And then that's what we really aim to do with our small groups and our masterminds, is to give the women in our community that space where they can come and say, like, oh my gosh, my team is driving me up the wall, or oh my goodness, I need to let someone go, or I need to hire someone, I need support, I'm not sure if I'm asking the right questions, doing the right thing, or any of those. So it's just really important for everyone to have that space.
Powerful. What would you say to, because this is coming up, so we run these Willing and the Wise calls, which I know you've been on one of them, is that we have such a diverse group of incredible people. And now it's like we have one in London, we have one in San Diego. But we have a lot of people that are really introvert and lack confidence to even reach out to build their 1 Degree network or their support network, and don't actually know where to start. What would be some of your thoughts about making the first step or getting over some barriers to reach out to people? Because a lot of the time they're like, well, Steve and Sarah, we thought you were sort of untouchable and you had to pay money to be a part of this and all this. We thought you're just too far away. So people don't reach out. So what would be some of your thoughts or tools or ideas for people that are super introverts that just they feel like they can't reach out? What's your thoughts on that?
I actually did a talk for, I think it's called the Quiet Collective, Casey Lightbody. She's in Australia as well. I think she's in Brisbane. You're not. You're in New Zealand. I don't know why I keep saying that. I live there. I should know better. Anyways, things that I remember, because I've gone through this, you probably wouldn't guess it, but I am an introvert. And I used to be fairly shy, and I still can be in certain circumstances. Like, it's still hard for me to go to an event with loads of people I don't know and have to do that thing where you break the ice and you go stand around the snacks and the drinks and kind of hope someone will chat with you. So I've been there. And I think the biggest thing that I always try to remember is that no matter what it looks like on the surface, everybody is probably having a little moment of their own in some situation in their lives. So nobody is really as like big and fancy as we imagine they are, I think. Or I like to tell myself that. And then when I started DoveTail, I really started with one phone call. I started with one person, and then I asked that person. So I was really lucky. I had a friend of a friend who had a bit of an in with the woman in tech in Toronto. So I reached out and had one person that I got introduced to, and then I said to her, can you introduce me to a couple of other people that you think might be a good fit? And then having those personal introductions then enabled me to have one-to-one phone calls with all those people. So it's not like I had to suddenly go from not knowing anyone to now I'm in front of 50, 100 people, 200 people. It was just those really close connection phone calls and personal introductions. And I'm such a dork, but I write down questions before I get on phone calls. So when I was, with people that when I was first starting DoveTail and I didn't know who I was talking to, and I was so worried that they were going to think I didn't know what I was doing or whatever. So I'd have 5 bullet points. I'm okay, just ask them about this. If it gets a bit awkward, just redirect, So yeah, nobody really knows entirely what they're doing behind the scenes. And you can kind of let go of some of the fear of looking like a goof because everyone's been goofy sometimes.
I think that's super powerful, is that, and now that we have Zoom and these platforms, is that I think it's the perfect platform for introverts. And you believe it or not, you won't think me as obviously absolutely petrified of public speaking. And when I go to new events, I'm that guy in the corner. It's taken me some time to is to be able to just reach out or get someone to make an introduction and just have a one-on-one conversation through Zoom if you have some social anxieties about even meeting up in person. So there's literally this new step that's been put in and has given us permission to have conversations before we have the physical conversation. So yeah, super powerful. So I know that's come up in a couple of our calls, a couple of girls that are just really lacking confidence right now and anxiety, is that, hey, it's only one phone call away or a Zoom call to at least get things moving. It's amazing how 33 minutes just goes like that, because we've had so many amazing conversations. You've definitely been a massive supporter in what we're creating at Wonder and Wander, and I really just admire what you're creating at DoveTail, the honesty, integrity, and transparency that you are as a person, and just supporting me and Sarah along this journey as well. I can't wait till we collaborate and bring DoveTail down to this part of the world and get amazing Australian and New Zealand women part of this awesome global community, and get you back in New Zealand, because I know you, and we'll throw you up. What do you do? 3 jumps out at 10,000 feet. So we're going to take you up to 15,000 next time. So
yeah, static line course, but it was with the Otago Skydive Club. So much fun. Anyway.
Thank you so much for today. So
thank you. I am just so grateful to know you and Sarah, and this was such a treat. So thank you.
Awesome.